All right, back on the Young Turks, Bernie birthday bash. Benjamin Dixon joins us. How you doing, Ben?
Doing good, Cenk. Glad to be here celebrating the man, Bernard Sanders.
Apparently his son Levi, growing up, also called him Bernard instead of Dad. Maybe that's why Bernie didn't endorse him when he ran. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. No, I actually love that Bernie doesn't endorse his family members. And he says, I don't believe in dynasties and I don't believe in royalty. So bless his heart. And then, so, people say, hey, Cenk, are you mad at Bernie for, in a sense, unendorsing you in your campaign? Are you crazy? He endorsed me, he didn't endorse his own son. So no, I love him for it. I love that he had enough courage to endorse me in the first place. In fact, Nina Turner's going to be on in the next segment. We'll talk to her about that and the campaigns that Bernie's supporting. But Ben, before we get started on his two runs in 2016 and 2020, I'm just going to read a couple of names here real quick. So these are donors that are making shows like this possible at tyt.com/go. Fadi A in Sydney, $15. Julie S in Rosendale, Massachusetts, $27. Pat L in Millville, Delaware. It's my old immigrant W's and V's getting mixed up. Anyway, $27 from Alfredo D in San Antonio, and $5 from Sarah H in Florida. And we're now at $35,056 at tyt.com/go. Love to get to $40,000 today. You guys make all the difference, and we do this show together, and we try to get change together. That's part of the point here, and I know the rest of the media hates that. Oh, they're like, oh, you should be disinterested in the news. No, the reason I cover the news is because I'm deeply interested in it, and I think we need a lot of change in this country, and so does Bernie. So that's why he ran twice. So we're going to show you one cute clip from 2016 to start the proceedings. You might remember this moment.
What? Oh. Now you see, this little bird doesn't know it. Oh my.
So that became Bernie Sanders. There's another famous clip of Donald Trump with an eagle, and the eagle spreads its wings, and Trump's like, ah! And that right there is the difference between the two guys, in a sense.
Yeah, Cenk, that clip just takes me back to a better time, a better time in American history, a better time when we could actually be gathered in a crowd, but also in a hopeful time. Like folks really, people like make a lot about this cult of personality around Bernie. I don't think it's a cult of personality. I think it's a bunch of people who really believe that we could do better, and that's what Bernie symbolizes.
Yeah, I actually, as usual with the corporate media, it's the exact opposite of reality. There's no cult of personality. If Bernie was not for those policy positions, progressives wouldn't have picked Bernie. We would have picked someone else.
Absolutely.
And they're so maddening. Ben, I don't know whether to be mad at the media or just kind of almost sympathetic, because they're just not that bright. There are folks who drive the agenda, and they're the ones who make the hiring decisions. But by the time you get to those mid-level manager editors that put out the narrative, they're just schleps. And they're like, oh, okay, we're supposed to tell everybody, don't ever focus on the policy. And if someone rises up because of policy, and you can't name another person who's risen up more clearly because of policy than Bernie Sanders, then we tell all of our reporters, write the opposite. Say nobody cares about his policy and they love him for his hair, et cetera, right? And that little bird thing there obviously doesn't mean anything like in terms of how you should vote. Of course. course, right? But it goes towards like this little moment where you got a sense of who the good guys are. It was like it was almost like a little look into the soul of the guy, and hence only symbolic. But look, you could say the relevant political part of that clip was the crowd, which has been the mainstay throughout in his 2 runs for president. And everybody knows Bernie's crowds. And when he ran again in 2020, Washington Post ran 4 negative articles on the first day. That's not to be confused with the 16 negative articles they ran over a 24-hour period or over a 16-hour period in 2016. That was a whole different incident. But when he decided to run again in 2020, they said the crowds won't show up this time. It's like he's playing the oldies and nobody's gonna show up. So let's look at Bernie's rally in Brooklyn in the 2020 campaign and see if the crowd showed up. Let's watch.
Sisters, we have an enormous amount of work in front of us, and the path forward will not be easy. The wealthy and powerful elite who decade after decade have gotten everything they want will do all that they can to defend their financial interests. And they have an unlimited amount of money at their disposal. But we have something that they do not have. We have the people together. This is what I believe from the bottom of my heart. If we do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up, if we stand together, black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native American, if we stand together, urban and rural, north, south, east, and west, if we stand together not as red state and blue state, but as working people fighting for dignity. If we stand together believing in justice and human dignity, if we stand together believing in love and compassion, if we stand together, brothers and sisters, the future of this country is extraordinary, and there is nothing we will not be able to accomplish.
Well, that was an awesome speech, an awesome crowd, as happened a lot, Ben. And I remember when I asked him in 2016, when did you know your campaign was going to catch on fire? He said, when I showed up at a campaign stop and there was all these people lined up, about 7,000 people. It was amazing. I'd never seen anything like that. And I asked my staffer, who are they here for? Who's on before us? And they said, no, Bernie, they're here for you. And he said, then I knew we had something. But Ben, at the end of the day, he said, if we stand together, we'll win, but we didn't. Okay, mm-hmm. So I'm keeping it real on that front, obviously. So what do you think got in the way? Yeah.
You know, he mentioned in that speech about not letting Donald Trump divide us. What he should have mentioned was not let the Democratic establishment divide us, right? Because there was a concerted effort, right? We're in a fight for our lives against Donald Trump. We got to get rid of Donald Trump. But we're celebrating Bernie tonight, and what stopped Bernie was the fact that the Democratic Party put more energy in stopping him than it feels like they're putting into stopping Donald Trump. And so that's really what was the greatest hindrance. And what he represents is something that's almost antithetical to the current Democratic Party. Like, he represents working people of every race. He's not concerned with identity only politics. He's concerned about your identity, but he also was concerned about your material condition. And so that type of message was a threat to the billionaire donors that support the Democratic Party as well.
So let's talk about this for a second, because we talked about his civil rights record in the last segment, Ben, and he had a great one, and his opponent didn't necessarily have a great one. And so no question that the media made a giant difference there. But is there anything he or his team could have done to win South Carolina and to win the African American vote throughout the South? Because they did a pretty good job in reaching African Americans who are younger, and they did a better job of reaching minorities in other parts of the country. But my God, they had 4 years to work on it, and honestly, they still got killed in the South with black voters in 2020. So if you were in their place, is there anything you would have advised them to do differently? Anything they could have done to change the outcome in the South?
Yeah, it's the same things that we try to advise him for the longest. Me on the outside way back in 2015, but he also had some pretty good African American advisors, team members. I could call them by names, but Bernie's old. And Bernie's stubborn, and Bernie was stuck in his ways, and he did not, just like the New York Times opinion board piece where he said he just doesn't play the game. There are some things where he should have just played the game. There's some things where he should have made some phone calls and courted some people in a way that I don't think he was really comfortable with, and honestly communicated more strongly on race because that's the game they played against him. Case in point, reparations. Nobody has heard anything about reparations from the Democratic Party since they stopped using it as a tool against Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders should have played the same game that the Democratic establishment played against him, but that's not his style of politics. So, you can't fault him for being true to his style of politics. But there were things that he could have done. But hindsight is 2020. We know the games of the Democratic Party now. And so on the next go round, whoever the leader is of the progressive movement, we have to go after them the same way they come after us.
Yeah, look, first of all, if he came out loudly in favor of reparations first, as an example, to your point, Ben, they couldn't help but attack him, including Fox News. And what they would have done is told everybody which side he's on, right? Mm-hmm. I made a wild suggestion, but I don't think it's wild. I think it makes sense, and one way to go is what would have been, and it's a small thing, but it could make a big difference. Was to say, look, who is the best performing ethnic group in terms of education in America? And if you don't know the answer, it's actually Nigerians, okay? And so if I was Bernie's team, I would have announced that we were gonna do a massive scholarship to try to recruit more Nigerians to come to America because they're so successful in doing well here, okay? What would have happened? Fox News would have lost their minds. Donald Trump would have lost their minds. Can you believe he's letting more black people in the country? Mm-hmm. Well, you just told everybody you're on the side of black folks and other folks aren't, right? Pick a moral high ground, a policy you agree with anyway, and have them attack you because they're never going to give you positive coverage. Mm-hmm. Never, right? And so I don't know, Ben, am I overstating it? I think honestly that the reason he lost 2 elections, yes, he could have done things better. You just mentioned some things he could have done better. I've talked about it a lot, and there are some other factors, but I think it's 70% the media that cost him the elections.
Oh yeah, because it's absolutely the media who spun those narratives, right? The negative narrative of the Bernie bros, right? The negative narrative about Bernie Sanders not doing well with the black vote. Like they gave wings and legs to a story that wasn't factual, and that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's the manufactured consent that we get from the Republicans, from the media on a regular basis, and that's something that we also have to be aware of, though. So my thing is, if we know the weapons that they use against us, then we have to be one step ahead of them at all times. And so we know the narratives now, we know the game, we know how they weaponize identity politics, we know how they even try to divide the working class and pit us against each other, because that's been the strategy that they've employed for generations. So I do agree. I think it's mainly the media, but they also tapped onto some critical issues there that they felt that they can exploit with regard to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, so here's a couple more amazing facts before we show you another video. During 2015, when Bernie was closing Hillary Clinton's lead in a way that was absolutely remarkable, Hillary Clinton got 3 times the coverage that he did. I mean, that is so hard to overcome. That is billions of dollars more in media coverage for Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and she already had great name recognition. Bernie Sanders' main problem in 2016 was name recognition, and they just starved him of that attention. But here's more stunning facts. So Trump got more attention than he did in 2015, of course, right? But also Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and even Ben Carson. Ben Carson got more press coverage than Bernie Sanders did in the year 2015. Now, do you know how big a lead Bernie Sanders closed between May of 2015 and right after the Iowa primary in February of 2016? So in about 8 months, he closed a 50-point lead. Wow. He was down 60-10, and by the time Iowa was over, they were in a statistical tie, according to Quinnipiac. And yet they covered Ben Carson more. Unreal. So now I got to squeeze in this one more video for you guys before we go to Nina Turner. These are debate highlights, and I wanted to emphasize that as well. So let's take a quick look at these.
Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all healthcare needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know.
Second of all,
you don't know that,
second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I wrote the damn bill. And second of all, I get a little bit tired of Democrats afraid of big ideas. Republicans are not afraid of big ideas. They could give $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and profitable corporations. They could bail out the crooks on Wall Street. So please don't tell me that we cannot take on the fossil fuel industry and nothing happens unless we do. Let's talk about democratic socialism, not communism, Mr. Bloomberg. That's a cheap shot. Let's talk about democratic. Let's talk about what goes on in countries like Denmark, where Pete correctly pointed out they have a much higher quality of life in many respects than we do. What are we talking about? We are living in many ways in a socialist society right now. Problem is, as Dr. Martin Luther King reminded us, we have socialism for the very rich, rugged individualism for the poor.
You support Medicare for All, which would eventually take private health insurance away from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for government-sponsored health care for everyone. Congressman Delaney just referred to it as bad policy, and previously he has called the idea political suicide that will just get President Trump reelected. What do you say to Congressman Delaney?
You're wrong.
Every question framed against him. Every question. And so, look, I got frustrated that sometimes he didn't make as good arguments as I imagined we could have made for the progressive movement. But he had to climb an impossible hill where they just kept pouring like oil down the hill and saying, oh, go ahead, why don't you just climb up it? It's your fault if we're not climbing up it. So look, the critique there is, he should have said from the get-go, hey, you know what, socialist cops and fire department and the military. And so stop this insane talking point. And if you, Jake Tapper or Anderson Cooper, you ask me that one more time, I'm gonna begin to understand that you don't understand anything about politics and you probably should be fired. Do you understand that every country has a mixed economy? Do you understand that? If you don't understand it, you should not be in the news business. But that's not who Bernie Sanders is. And by the way, if they didn't like Bernie, wait till they get somebody who actually is a fire breather. And one day, someone like that will rise out of the left.
Yeah, Jake, I say that all the time. They really should have accepted Bernie Sanders because he was the negotiation. There are people who are coming up in the ranks who are going to be far more charismatic, able to argue more, debate better, and play the game of politics better than any Democratic establishment player can. And they are going to be truly a leftist.
Yep. So I'm going to read a couple more names here, and then Nina Turner is next, and I'm going to read a couple comments. So Iron C from Huntington, Vermont, appropriately $27. These are all at tyt.com/go. We've got to have the progressive mic be louder, as you can tell here. That's basically why we lost the last two elections. And it turns out I was having trouble with his name. He's apparently donated a couple of times. It's Cemo because he's Turkish. The C is pronounced like a J. I should have known that. He gave $15 from New Orleans, obviously to Louisiana. Dean Yu from Honolulu gave $27. Erasmo C from Sacramento gave 10, and Bernard R appropriately from Jersey City gave $27. That's also appropriate. Just want to read one comment here. Badger Gal says, actually, before I do that, let me tell you where the thermometer is at. 35,534. Would love to get to 40,000 by the end of the day. If you can, tyt.com/go. Badger Gal wrote in the member section, this is making me tear up. I just don't feel that sense of hope anymore. Well, don't worry, stay right here, because coming up next, Nina Turner and Hope. We'll be right back. All right, back on the Young Turks, Bernie's birthday bash. We've got a couple of great guests coming up for you guys, including a special surprise guest that, trust me, is going to actually surprise you. But first, I want to thank the people that make this show possible. So let me read some names from tyt.com/go. Adriana G in Spring Valley, California, $15. Rick B in Port Angeles, Washington, $50. Jill A in East Lansing, Michigan, $27. Jill, your vote is also important. You're in Michigan. James D, doesn't it suck that the rest of our votes are not important? Anyway, James D in Brattleboro, Vermont, appropriately, $27. Therese K in Massachusetts, $27. Thank you guys, we appreciate it. And the thermometer is now at 35,965, trying to get to 40,000 for today to keep up with those right-wing billionaires funding right-wing media. So tyt.com/go. Also, members who just joined on YouTube, Jeremiah D'Amico and Rick Tymek. And speaking of YouTube, I want to read 2 YouTube super chats here. Rodney Fong wrote in, the world is driven by the global economy to change every day. If you aren't progressive, then you will be left behind like our government. We need to vote to get people like Bernie into government. We need to vote and to keep us safe and competitive. So that's perfect. And part of the reason I read it is we're about to focus on the future and hope and how we can get more folks into government. And then the last one is 2 hippie misfits, that's their title, on YouTube wrote in, we've been radicalizing the progressive movement since the early 1970s. Thank you for all you do. We love you for expanding our voice. You keep us sane. Well, you keep us able to do this, so we're all the Young Turks together. tyt.com/go. Appreciate it. All right, Ben Dixon joins us for this special, and now awesome guest for you guys, Nina Turner, Senator Nina Turner, joining us on TYT again. Welcome, Nina. How you doing?
Great to be here, Cenk.
All right, great. So Nina, let's talk a little bit about the future. So obviously, 2016 was an amazing campaign. As I explained in the last segment, Bernie in 8 months closed a 50-point lead, which is just spectacular. Never really got the credit for it. Obviously, same old thing, corporate media. But in 2020, it was less of a surprise and it was more of a heartbreak. A lot of folks, including myself, thought, we got him. I think we're gonna win. Yeah. So a lot of people are asking, okay, after that heartbreak, what do we have left to hope for?
Well, I'm right there with you, feeling though we had it this time. In terms of moving forward, it's certainly very clear that Senator Bernie Sanders was the spark. The movement is the fire. We are the fire, and it is our job, our collective job, those progressives, leftists, and I'm losing track of what we're calling ourselves these days, but people who believe in humanity, who are pushing for causes that are bigger and higher than themselves, people who believe what is just and believe in what is just, what is right, and what is good. The work continues, it never stops. It's the same work that our forebears have done before us. It's our work to do. And the senator was very clear about that. That is why not me, us is real. And we need to take that mantle, not me, us. It is about us and we must carry on.
So Nina, how do we carry on? So I know part of the answer is supporting more progressive candidates. And so And that's exactly why I helped to co-found Just Democrats. That's why I now founded Rebellion PAC. And we're going to talk to Brianna in a little bit. She's running Rebellion PAC to help candidates now and in the future. So how can other progressives help? So how can Bernie Sanders help other progressive candidates? How can you help?
Well, sir, I've endorsed several candidates. I will continue to do so. I'm going to do that in a more organized fashion. I get calls, emails, DMs, every social media outlet where people can reach me asking for my endorsement. So I am going to formalize that. And hopefully when we get through this part of COVID, it probably will not be until next year, the whole new normal, but we got to find ways to make our physical presence known in a safe way. And if we can't be there to help candidates physically, we got to be able to do it virtually. And that is the beautiful thing about being able to give your time, your talent, and your treasure. You can make calls for people who you support. You got to leave your house. You can give a donation so that they can either purchase commercials or ads or send flyers. There's all sorts of ways still in the 21st century that we can help the candidates that we want to support. I believe the future is that the leftists, we need to run people against neoliberal Democrats in every single election cycle, period. Make it known, just come on out and just say that's exactly what we're going to do. If you are not willing to use the people's power on the people's behalf, we coming for the people's seat. Not for you, but for the people's seat. And we're going to talk about what the people need. We need leaders who have a vision that will provide provision for the people. It's our government and it's our money. So nobody can sit on the sidelines, not in 2020, not in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and so on and so forth. We also need progressive organizations to come on and stiffen up here. We got outmaneuvered, point blank. The neoliberals coalesce. We know what happened. And so the progressive movement needs to be more agile. So those who lead organizations, I want to see progressives build a pact with one another, PACT, a table of progressives. Let's find those issues that we can agree on, top 3. So you can keep your autonomy in your group and keep on fighting. But if we say our top 3 issues are criminal justice reform, Medicare for all, legalizing cannabis, hey, then that's what we do. And come by hook or by crook, we standing together, no daylight between us on those issues. And that way, that allows those organizations to continue to do the beautiful work that they're doing on other issues. But we are lockstep on certain issues. And then another way is to come together to run candidates against neoliberal Democrats.
Yeah, there's 1,000 things I want to say about that, but Ben, I want to let you jump in here.
I am so happy to hear Nina say that about running and primary everybody, right? The establishment showed us this year that they will not abide by their own rules. They blacklist certain companies that work with candidates who are primarying someone that's in the establishment. But then Nancy Pelosi turned around and endorsed someone in a primary challenge. And so since they did that, let's return the favor. Not only to be spiteful, because I'm not above being petty, but because, like Nina said, it's the people's seat, and they're not using the seat or that power to help the people. So by all means, if there are people out there who are sincere about their progressiveness and not just using it as talking points, and they are ready to get into the fight, then we need to find them, run them, and primary everybody.
So, Nina, I'm going to ask you a kind of a hard question here, because if I'm a progressive in Congress, I'm calling you every other day. But I don't get the sense that even our top progressives are sticking together too well. Because I mean, when you talk about the groups, some of them are wonderful, and we talk about it. You led Our Revolution. I love Our Revolution. I think they do amazing work at the grassroots level. Yeah. I think there's a couple other groups that are great. Obviously, Just Democrats, I think, has made a giant difference. But the rest of them, God, we couldn't organize them if our lives depended on it. There's honestly, so many of these groups are so selfish, it's unbearable. But when we talk about the folks in Congress, you get a sense that they're reaching out to the progressive community a lot. I mean, almost none of them endorse Cori Bush.
Don't get me started on Sister Bush. And that was a candidate that I endorsed. We've been together since her first run. in 2018, and I'm so glad that we stuck together. She calls me Big Sis. Yeah, too many of them turned a blind eye to Sister Bush, and now they calling her and patting her on the back. You go, girl. I knew you could do it. That's foolishness. You got to stand with people, especially people you come up the ranks with. And I get it. When you serve in a caucus, as I did, that if you got people you then started to build a relationship with, and then you got your girl or your colleague rather running, it may be hard. But see, when you take the personality out of it, just let your colleague know, look, we serving together, but I gotta support this candidate for these reasons. I'll catch you on the other side, but I'm going for this candidate for reasons other than the fact that I serve with you, and therefore I gotta sign some type of document or some oath that I gotta support you. Either the folks, we don't need progressives in name only, okay? Because our lives are on the line right now. The planet is on the line. All of the things that we hold dear is on the line. So we need some folks that's gonna give up some stuff for the privilege of holding the people's power. And there are groups like Roots Action and PDA and other groups who are really ready, willing, and able to go ham on these neoliberals and these progressives in name only, because we only have a finite amount of time to have the people's power, and we got to be about the people's business, Cenk. Ben, it's time out. Scare folks. We'll need, no. Come on and let's change some things. We can turn that house around in particular because it's an every 2-year venture versus the Senate, which is every 6 years. I'm not saying that we shouldn't run some candidates in the Senate, but imagine if we focused on local level and on that Congress. Every time they turn around, there's a progressive running against somebody that is not doing the bidding of the people of the United States of America. And I'm talking about the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class, the marginalized, people cast aside. Them the folks I'm talking about, because all the other folks don't need nobody looking out for them.
Can I just say Nina Turner for whatever she wants to run for 2021, 2022, 2024, Nina Turner, fill in the blank, because that's the kind of passion and fire that we absolutely need.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for inventing Pino. The first time I heard it is from you just now, progressives in name only. I don't know if it's Pino or Pino. Maybe it's Pino. Maybe that's better.
Pino is a little too nice.
I gotta give some credit to Norm Solomon of Roots Action. That's him. That's all him.
All right. So, but Ben brings up a good point. So I don't know if we're the first to ask you, but let's ask you. Are you thinking about 2024?
I am. I mean, there are lots of people that I hear from all the time, from all over this country, who want me to consider running again. It's always something that is on my list. But for this moment, I'm gonna continue to help progressive candidates, progressive causes. I'm also gonna continue to navigate the racial justice space. To do those things, so we need corporations to come on through. Now they come through for themselves and the tax breaks and how they lobby Congress. We need them to come on through for the people. And there is a way to get some of those corporations to do that, especially on the justice side. Since the killing of George Floyd, we know that a number of corporations have pledged a whole lot of money for racial justice. Let's see if they can do that. So I'm also gonna put some of my talent on that side, but absolutely strong consideration for 2024, no doubt.
Okay, well, that's clear. So Nina, when you look at the difference in how two groups perceive you, it is as stark as I have ever seen it for anyone. The progressive movement absolutely loves you, and the media, not so much. So when we talk about you as a potential presidential contender, when I talk to Washington reporters, they're like, oh. And I'm like, why? I literally can't name anyone in the progressive movement that is more popular. And they're just absolutely convinced that it could only be a corporate Democrat. So how do you react to something like that, and how do you overcome something like that?
Well, thank God I don't have to depend on corporate media to be my measuring stick. The people are my measuring stick. And if I do decide to do something in 2024, it won't be because of the media lifted me up. It will be because the people lift me up. See, when you're out here doing the people's bidding, sometimes that's in conflict with mainstream media. It's in conflict with neoliberals. It's in conflict with the status quo, and I'm all right with that. As President Franklin D. Roosevelt said one time when he got that progressive when progressives pushed him to be more progressive. When he said, and Senator Sanders said the same thing on the campaign trail, I welcome their hatred.
This is why we love Nina Turner. I've told this story many times, but Nina, that I'm watching a speech of yours, and you get to a point. Well, first of all, you go into the crowd, which I love. People have forgotten that nobody does that other than you. And then you get to a point where you say, they say I'm an angry black woman. Yeah. And that's when you paused, and I was like, don't say it, don't say it. That's when everybody apologizes, right? He says, no, I'm not, please, right? And you're like, damn right I am. I'm like, she's the one. She's the one.
Yeah.
Lean into that angriness. I'm just saying, I mean, if you ain't mad about what is happening, 92 million people in climbing without health care, underinsured or uninsured, if you ain't angry that folks are facing eviction, meanwhile, back at the ranch, Congress can go on breaks while people are suffering. If you ain't angry that people are playing games with the military industrial complex, that even in the House of Representatives, now we get what Mitch gonna do. Mitch got to go, but even in the House of Representatives, we can't pass a 10% cut on the Pentagon budget. If you ain't angry that people in this country can't make ends meet, we can't even get a basic universal income, people haggling about whether or not we're gonna keep the $600 extra a week going. If you ain't angry that essential workers are not protected and doctors and nurses don't have all the equipment that they need, if you're not angry that our babies, because of COVID and the fact that we were not prepared, are going to be set back, especially in poorer communities from an education perspective. If you are not angry that people going to bed hungry every night, babies going to bed hungry every night in a hegemon nation, baby, if you're not angry, something is wrong with you. And I had a boss who once said, if your hair is on fire,
hello, somebody.
Hello, somebody. You have to act like your hair is on fire. Somebody. Our whole body is on fire right now. People are suffering. The pandemic just blew the roof off of the illusion. There are no more illusions in the United States of America, or dare I say the world, that the people who are catching hell laid bare were catching hell 5 years ago, 10 years ago, hell, 10 minutes ago. Those are the people. And if we can't elect folks to office, all levels of government, but particularly the federal level where they ain't got the balance, one damn budget, who don't have the will to stand up for the people against, if they're corporate folks and people giving you donations who can't see how people are suffering. If the wealthy folks in this, you're not making enough money. What is it? The 12 wealthiest people control $1 trillion. I mean, that's called predatory capitalism. It's called excessive greed, and we don't give a damn who dies. I mean, if you got to get your money from folks like that, then you don't need their money. It is something unseemly and immoral. And some of these same people who do believe in a God will go to damn church knowing what the hell would Jesus do? He'd be turning over the money tables like he did. That's what he would be doing. So I'm tired of the foolishness, Ben and Cenk. I'm over it, been over it. So yeah, I'm an angry black woman, and you're damn right, my hair is on fire, and I am going to act like my hair is on fire at all times. That's me.
Preach it.
Preach. My God.
Teach it. All right.
I don't know if you're waiting on me to say something, Cenk, but there's absolutely nothing that needs to be said after Nina Turner, the indomitable Nina Turner.
All right. So by the way, if you want to hear more of that, Nina's got a podcast, Hello Somebody, and you're gonna love it. So make sure you check that out. Nina, before I let you go, then let me ask one more question. So in order to do it right next time, we got to learn the lessons of the last 2 times. So give me your biggest takeaways from what went wrong and how we can fix it in 2024.
We got to know that the neoliberals see us coming. They saw that in 2016, how well the senator did, and they saw him coming this next time. Not only him, but they saw the movement behind him coming. And they had to all coalesce. We were not agile enough as a movement. We need some more discipline. Now, we right on the issues, but baby, we got to get disciplined to be able to overtake an entrenched system that is not going to roll over and say, you know what, progressives, y'all so right. We do need to take care of Mother Earth. People do need universal health care. We do have to do something with a criminal justice system that is, Lord have mercy, don't get me started. So we have to organize and be disciplined and move like we want to win. It is not enough to have the right ideas, baby, we got to win. It is time to prepare right now. There's an African proverb that says the following: one must never build their shield on the battlefield. If we want a different outcome and a different result in 2024, then it's shield building time right now. Because they coming for us and they are going to coalesce because they fear the change that we're talking about. Leaders who answer 99.9% to the everyday people of this nation, they fear it. So we got to organize. You know, Brother Killer Mike put it best. I can't put it any better than he did. He said, plot, plan, strategize, organize, mobilize, and capitalize. Baby, that's what we need to do right now. We can't get ready in 2024. We need to get ready right now.
Yeah. Look, there is a squad that is not yet in Congress, but I just want folks to whisper of a dream. Nina Turner, Killer Mike, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush. Okay, if you like the last squad, wait till you get a load of this squad.
There it is. That's too hot to handle. I don't know if the world ready for that. Yes.
I mean, I'd like to take that squad out for a drive, see how that one goes. So
happy birthday to Senator Bernie Sanders. He definitely took it to the system in 2016, tried to repeat it in 2020. Our movement and this nation will never be the same because he had the courage to stand up.
Absolutely. Nina Turner, you're the best. Everybody check out Hello Somebody. It's easy to remember. It's Senator Nina Turner's podcast, and you're gonna love it. Thank you so much, and Ben, thank you as well. For everybody else, we'll be right back. All right, back on the Young Turks Bernie birthday bash. As you can tell, we're gonna talk to Brianna Wu in a second. She's another great guest that's coming up. And later, the surprise guest that I've been telling you guys about, it's a bit shocking, will appear on the Young Turks for the first time. So we'll get to that in the next segment. But first, as I always do, let's read your names because you make this show possible and we can't do it without you. So Paris C gave $15 from Wilmington, Delaware. Mildred C from LA, $15. Omar K from Columbus, Ohio, $15. Terry J from Seattle, $27. And Matthew H from Arlington Heights, Illinois, $30. So those are all folks who gave at tyt.com/go. And now we're up to this month's thermometer, $36,401. Today we're trying to get to 40,000. We'll see if we can do that. And guys, this year we've been trying to get to 200,000 every month, and it might seem like a lot, but it actually is a tiny amount compared to what the right wing gets. So PragerU alone gets about $23 million a year from 2 right wing billionaires. So that's not revenue, that's not profit. That's just they just give it to them. It's socialism for the rich, as Bernie and Nina Turner were talking about. Us, we got to rely on you guys, but I'm glad we do, because together we become way stronger. You can knock out 2 donors. You can't knock out 28,000 donors, which is what you guys are. So tyt.com/go to make that possible. And then I wanted to read the big phenom, by the way, just joined on YouTube. You could hit the join button below to become a member on YouTube. I just want to read a couple of comments from our members on our website, tyt.com/join to become a member there. Mickey C says, far too many people don't realize that Bernie isn't a far left radical. According to civilized societies, he's barely left of center. That's 100% true. I feel the same exact way about my policies, and I can prove it, and I'm going to prove it in the book that I'm writing. If you want to pre-order that, that's justiceiscomingbook.com. No more trigonometry writes, and imagine a Nina Turner, Rashida Tlaib combo. I can't even. they end. Neither can I. Corporate media's heads would explode. It would be awesome to see. Queen Bree just joined up on YouTube. I can see her guys' names. It's great. Thank you for doing that. And last one, Cray Cray Souffle writes in, I sure hope Nina runs for office. We really need her voice and spirit to change our politics for the better. I think that we all agree to that. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna throw in one more from YouTube Super Chat because Laura Shin wrote in, I literally cannot breathe when I see Nina Turner. I love her so much. Her voice gives me strength. It's like going to church. Okay, agreed. All right, now on to another progressive hero. Brianna Wu joins us. She's a former Just Democrat, ran for office, and is now the executive director of Rebellion PAC. So Brianna, great to have you back on the Young Turks.
Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to be here, Cenk.
All right, so for those who are uninitiated, tell us what Rebellion PAC is.
Rebellion PAC is our way to fight back. Like you and I both know that Democrats and progressives especially are held to double standards with what we can say and what we can't say. We saw this in the Kennedy-Markey race. Markey would put out tough messaging saying, you know what, Joe Kennedy is just running on his name. He doesn't have policy. And the Boston Globe and the Boston media blasted him over that. We put together tough ads saying the exact same thing, caught on like wildfire on Facebook, put it on TV, people loved it, and we helped him win. So our mission objective is to put out the tough messages that progressive Democrats can't because they're held to double standards.
So let's take a look at the future. Now, in 2020, Bernie Sanders had a heartbreaking loss. And then others, including you and I, by the way, briefly ran for office and didn't make it. But then we had amazing victories. Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Marie Newman. Then you've got Mondare in New York, and you've got many others throughout the country that weren't at the congressional level. And then you've got Ed Markey, the race you were talking about, fending off an up and coming corporate Democrat backed by Nancy Pelosi. So when you look at that whole picture, are you, let's be as honest as we can here, are you encouraged or discouraged for 2022 and beyond?
I think it's going to depend on how discouraged progressives feel. If we stay true to ourselves and we dig deep and we keep fighting, hell yeah, we're gonna win, we're gonna be fine. It's just two heartbreaking losses in a row. Yeah, I'm on record saying I will vote for Joe Biden, but I'm never gonna feel enthusiastic about that. But we have to get out there and do it. Because it's about supporting Cori Bush, it's about supporting AOC, it's about supporting all these great progressive Democrats that we've got. So we have to have their back with resources, with time, with energy, and with messaging discipline. So I would say our future is largely up to us.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And we've got to, as Nina Turner was just saying, we've got to plan and organize now to be able to win, not just in these elections, but also in 2022 and 2024. Actually, I wanted to play Bernie's speech at the DNC this year, or a portion of it, and have you react to it, because I think it relates to something you just said. So let's roll that.
This election is the most important in the modern history of this country. In response to the unprecedented crises we face, we need an unprecedented response, a movement like never before of people who are prepared to stand up and fight for democracy and decency and against greed, oligarchy, and bigotry. Our campaign ended several months ago, but our movement continues and is getting stronger every day. Many of the ideas we fought for that just a few years ago were considered radical are now mainstream. But let us be clear, if Donald Trump is reelected, all the progress we have made will be in jeopardy. Together, we must build a nation that is more equitable, more compassionate, and more inclusive. I know that Joe Biden will begin that fight on day one.
So, Brianna, Rebellion PAC's running ads against Trump as well. Yes. So, do you agree with Bernie? Because the problem is that it's the Democratic Party and the media are a little bit of the story of the boy who cried wolf, right? This is the most important election of your lifetime. This is the most important election of every election, every presidential election. But do you agree with Bernie that this, in fact, is the most important election of our lifetime?
I absolutely do. I don't know if our democracy can withstand 4 more years of Trump. He has frayed the guardrails. He's attacked the judiciary. We see the attorney general, constantly attacking the rule of law. I genuinely worry that if we don't defeat Donald Trump this time, that the United States is going to descend into a hybrid autocracy, where we're not going to have free and fair elections, and it truly terrifies me. And I just want to touch on something that Bernie said there. We are all tired. I have never been as exhausted as I am today after 4 years of Trump. But I grew up in Mississippi. And I think about the black people I grew up with that stood through the civil rights movement in Mississippi, and how tired they must have been back in the 90s, back in the 2000s. Today, we are all tired to our bones, but we have to keep fighting, because if we don't, we're essentially forfeiting the country.
Look, I'm a broken record on 2 things, but only because they're the 2 things that I think affect things the most. And so one is money in politics and getting money out. If we don't, I'm gonna have to start 2 more PACs. Right? Like, for God's sake, let's focus our energies so that we can fix the core of the problem. But the second thing is the corporate media. Because almost all of our candidates run into the same problem, which is getting halfway decent press coverage, getting any press coverage at all, and then getting press coverage that isn't overtly hostile. So in terms of, I'll ask about 2 things. One, against Trump, what can Rebellion PAC do? And 2, how do we begin to change the focus of the media, if that's possible, to give progressives a fair shake?
So the first question, what can Rebellion PAC do? We're looking right now at the really tough swing state elections, and these were won by almost nothing in 2016. Michigan in particular, it was a little over 10,000 votes. So if you were telling a PAC, hey, you need to go out there and let's say triple that, make sure you get 30,000 progressives to get out there and vote, that's an achievable mission objective. And really think about this. You've got the centrist Democrats, they're sure gonna go after centrist corporate Democrats. And we know from the convention, they're gonna be very good at targeting towards Republicans. But over here with the progressives, is anyone really talking to progressives and saying, you know what, if you show up and vote and get Cori Bush in there along with AOC and the squad, think about what we can really get past. No one is making that case. So I see my objective every single day from now until the election is to go out there to those swing states, make those cases using modern techniques to progressive Democrats, make sure that we vote and make our voice heard.
Right. Now, about the media, is it through the ads? Is it through data? How do we change the dynamic and the paradigm of the media seemingly being against progressive candidates so fervently as they were with Bernie in 2016 and 2020?
That really is the core question, Cenk. If you look at the Boston Globe coverage of how they covered me during Gamergate, when it was Brianna Wu the victim, Brianna Wu getting death threats or bricks through her window, look at how they covered me. They were delighted to write editorials and send TV cameras out and to cover me when I was a woman in danger. But when I was a woman asking for power and asking for my ideas to be heard, just shut down automatically. The truth is, we can't count on traditional media to get our messages out there and cover us fairly. people say MSNBC is like this far leftist thing. It's not. It's very centrist Democrat. So I think what's really important is you've got to support progressive media that you believe in, like Young Turks and Nation, these other progressive institutions. And I think we really have to put together our own media ecosystem to get these messages out there. Markey won in Massachusetts because we were all hyper organized in getting our friends out there, aware of the election, and making sure they showed up to the polls. That is a playbook that bypasses the media. As far as I can tell, that's the only way we're going to get Medicare for all passed.
All right, and let me ask you a funny question. Because obviously we embarked on this journey together on Rebellion, you and I did. But for the audience at home, why did you decide to do this in particular?
It was a really hard decision. I had already started fielding offers from the game industry to go back to software engineering. But what I realized is a lot of people, after they run for office and they don't win, they're so hurt from the experience because it's really emotionally painful that they don't stick around. And I know you saw this too running for office, Cenk, that when you're looking at the professional class of politicos, they're sometimes lacking on the progressive policies and the progressive approach to things. So I saw my ability to use my experience in the tech industry with really ferocious messaging to really go out there and make a bold pack that wasn't afraid to throw some metaphorical punches for the causes I believed in. So short answer is I saw that there was a leadership vacuum, and I really thought that we could win the 2020 election.
Yeah, well, I think we definitely can win the 2020 election. I agree with you that something like Rebellion PAC laser focus on some key states and districts that can win could make a huge difference. Could make all the difference. Yeah. So everybody's got to help in their own way. At this point, Rebellion PAC isn't strong enough or isn't large enough. I'm keeping it real to be able to affect the entire national race. Yep. But if we could do our part in Michigan and a couple of other places, I think that it could make a big difference. And we get to hit harder than traditional Democratic PACs. So then that leads me to this question. So you talked about punching harder, and Bernie, for all of his, being the Diogenes of the progressive movement and in politics, the one honest man, and the guy who held the lantern for us to see the way, was not that hard a puncher. So the next person who runs, who has a real shot at the presidential level, do they need to be more aggressive and even honestly hostile to what we can tell you ahead of time is going to be the horrible media coverage that they get?
Yeah. Maybe they do. I think it depends on the candidate. Something I really do appreciate about Rebellion PAC is we can say that we can run the nastiest, most accurate ads you can ever imagine and get that message out there in a real way. So you can call me every name in the book. I don't care. We're going to keep saying it. I do think that we need to stand truer to our values. But I think with Bernie, Cenk, something that I had my own experience with Bernie when I was growing up in Mississippi. And the media looks down on these 20-somethings today that heard Bernie in 2016 and got active in politics. I know exactly what that's like, because I remember being 20-something in Mississippi and trying to find my political footing and hearing Bernie talking real for the very first time. So I just think that we have to be honest with ourselves and our values and throw a punch, but people are attracted to the truth, and that's what we need to stick to.
Well, it's interesting because even though we started Rebellion PAC together, I hadn't even considered the fact that maybe the next candidate we have in 2024 for the progressive movement for the presidential level doesn't have to throw as many punches if we do it for him. So rebellionpac.com. maybe that'll be our tagline. We throw punches.
We're the sin eaters.
So, but Brianna, before I let you go, I don't want to glide past it because there's actually a really powerful point you just made there, a couple of questions ago. That when the media saw you, we talked about got to be willing to withstand some critique, to say the least, right? And God, you've been attacked almost as hard as anyone's ever been attacked during Gamergate, and I know a thing or two about getting attacked. So we're in the counterpunch business, but that line you had about how when you were in Gamergate, the media did cover you fairly and in a sense rose to your defense. But when you ran for office and asked for power, then they turned on you. That is really interesting. And look, I don't know if you could psychoanalyze them, but because I don't think that they're doing it consciously. I don't think the reporter who thought, I like Brianna, and my God, what they're doing to her at Gamergate is outrageous. She's running for office, I really can't stand her. I don't think that's a conscious thought, right?
Right.
So what is it about that dynamic that made them flip and not give you the time of day when you ran for office, you think?
I think it's someone fitting into a storyline, right? It's almost like the media makes up a story about you. It's like, it's really hard to break out of that. You see this a lot with the media covering racial issues as well. Yeah, they're very happy to cover the horrors that happen to people of color, but as soon as that person of color is running for office, you see all these double standards and questions come up in a really uncomfortable way. So I don't think it's malicious, but I also think it speaks to the homogenous nature of newsrooms, and you and I both seen that in our careers, and there just aren't people there with our beliefs, and I think that needs to change.
All right, well, rebellionpact.com, help us change it. We got a lot more plans where that came from. Brianna was the executive director, and she's doing an amazing job. Thank you so much for joining us, Brianna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cenk.
All right, so guys, we're gonna take another quick break here. We do have our special, amazing, surprising guest coming up. It's a birthday wish for Bernie Sanders. You'll see who it is, but share the stream, like the stream, because you're gonna wanna see this. And as we go on here, let me do the usual. Let me thank you guys. New names: Katie M from St. Paul, Minnesota, $50. Roger T from Roseville, California, $30. Andrew L from Bristol, Illinois, $27. Derek S from Antelope, California, $3. Harland N from San Pedro, California, $10. Love you all. TYT.com/go is where you make the progressive movement possible. We do have at least one media source on your side. You're looking at it. And so far, by the way, the thermometer right now is at 36,571. All right, when we come back, finally, the surprise guest, and I will give you my concluding thoughts about where we take the progressive movement on today's special Bernie birthday special that we're having for you guys. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.